Recently, I rewatched 13 Going on 30 for its 20th anniversary, so let's review. So 13 Going on 30 is about Jenna Rink, who in 1987, on her 13th birthday, makes a wish that she was 30 years old, and so she wakes up in the year 2004, where she is 30 years old, and she is trying to navigate being 30 years old while also having the mindset of a 13-year-old and realizing that being 30 is not what she thought it would be like, while also realizing everything she missed out on in them 17 years and all the damage she ended up doing. Now, I remember watching this all the time back on HBO and Cinemax back in the day, and at the time I thought it was a pretty fun little film. As a matter of fact, at the time when this movie came out, I was 12 going on 13 now that I think about it. So I guess you can say I was basically the right age when this movie came out. And now here I am watching it as a 32 going on 33-year-old man real soon. But I will say, watching this with adult eyes and as a 32-year-old man, this movie is a lot more better than I remember. It definitely aged a lot better with me now that I'm in my 30s. Now, I always thought it was a cute premise. You have a 13-year-old girl that wishes she was 30, and then she all of a sudden goes into the future and she's 30 years old, and she has the mindset of a 13-year-old, but she's a 30-year-old woman. And so all the fun that can be had with that in terms of the story. But there was a lot more stuff happening on the surface of this premise that I never appreciated. Now, as far as all the 80s stuff, because she is a 13-year-old girl in the 80s, it's also just cool just to see the 80s aesthetic and then to go to the mid-2000s aesthetic. That's just interesting in itself. But again, she was a 13-year-old girl in the 80s, so what she thinks is cool in the 80s isn't cool in 2004. Like, for example, there was a bunch of jokes at the expense of that premise. Like, somebody said, "Who's your daddy?" And then she says, "It's my father." She's wearing a skimpy outfit, and then she asks somebody, "Can you see my underwear?" Somebody tries to have sex with her, and of course, her 13-year-old self, she doesn't know what to do, which could have been a little bit darker. But since this is a romantic comedy, it's not. She tries to ask a boy out, but then her friend pulls her to the side. I'm like, "What are you doing? That's just a boy." Now, as far as the future goes, and maybe I'm just reaching a little bit, but I do have some questions because again, the movie jumps to the future where she's 30 years old, and it's just like, how does she know, I don't know, the technological advancements within the future? Or how does this world predict the technological advancements in the future? Like, I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is, how in the future does she know that cell phones are going to be a thing? How does she know about Vanilla Ice? How does she know about the advancements of Mac computers? But the biggest question I do have, because she does befriend a little girl that happens to be her neighbor, and she eventually invites her and all her friends over for a sleepover, and I'm like, so do all the parents of these little girls do not think it's weird that this grown 30-year-old woman is inviting all these 13-year-old girls for a sleepover? But those are some nitpicks like mine. But the movie does have fun with 80s references like Thriller. She does the Thriller dance in the beginning when she's a little girl, but then in the future she brings Thriller back in 2004. But of course everybody loves Michael Jackson's Thriller. But she's at this party and that's all she knows is the Thriller dance. I've always loved the setup of this movie in which she's trying to impress these group of girls. And then she has her best friend Maddie, who's a little bit on the geeky side, but she's trying to impress the six, but then Maddie embarrasses her. And then when she goes into the future, she's best friends with one of the girls within the six. And Maddie, not only he's no longer a geek, but he's doing fine for himself. But in the process, she did hurt him in the process by not being his friend and just rejecting and gaslighting him and just forgetting him for all these years. And so that all of a sudden, when she comes back into his life, he just takes it in stride. But at the same time, he will never forget all the hurt that it brought him. Now, Jennifer Garner, I always liked her as an actress, and she's been in some things that I've liked, but I mainly know her for playing Elektra, and she was in Alias. And she is a very diverse actress. Like, she can do drama, she can do action, and she can do comedy. And I definitely agree that she excelled in the comedy here because she did a good job of just playing a 30-year-old adult that has the mind of a 13-year-old. A young Judy Greer is in this movie, and she plays Jenna's friend in the movie, and kind of a different role than I expected Judy Greer because she's supposed to be the mean girl from back in the 80s, and now she's all grown up, and she's still the mean girl. It's funny how you're one type of person as a kid and then you never really grow out of that as an adult. I think that's very relatable. But a young Mark Ruffalo is in this movie, and it's just crazy how long Mark Ruffalo, he's been an actor. Just a month ago, he was nominated for an Oscar, and then just going back to, his beginnings, it's just, wow, you've come a long way, and now you're the Hulk. But I've always loved the dynamic between Jennifer Garner and Mark Ruffalo in this movie because they definitely carry that friendship they had as kids on into adulthood. And when they're rekindling with each other, and then she's realized how much she's hurt him and how much she's hurt other people and all the damage she's done to the magazine company that she works for. But my favorite scene in this movie is when she goes back to her childhood home to reconnect with her parents that she just stopped talking to for all these years. And you got the Billy Joel music playing in the background, and she's just walking throughout the house. Like, I love scenes like this where there's no dialogue, but through the filmmaking, the music, and the subtle acting, you get what the scene is coming across. Now, eventually she does make things right, but then it all still comes back to haunt her. And Maddie, he is getting married to another woman. She tries to fix things, but like I said, Maddie, as much as he loves Jenna, he does not forget all the hurt that Jenna brought him. But luckily, he kept the dollhouse that he made for her on her 13th birthday, and the magic dust is still there. And so she goes back to when she was 13, and then she makes things right with Maddie. And cut back to the future, they are married. But the moment before the official ending of the movie was always my favorite because it was a moment of maturity for these characters. Now, like I said, 13 going on 30 was a lot better than I remember. It definitely kind of resonates with me more now than I am in my 30s. It's a great romantic comedy with great chemistry from two fantastic actors. And yeah, this premise has been done other times. Looking at you, Big. But I'm going to say about this movie what I said about Above the Rim. It's like a well-prepared, familiar meal with some special ingredients added in. I'm going to give 13 going on 30 the hard eyes emoji.